Hey there everyone, it's CandyEvie here. A new series on my channel that's done extremely well lately would be my coverage of Easter eggs in the Pokemon trading card game. I'll be honest, as much as I love making these videos, there's only so much that you can do in a short amount of time. I really do love these videos and I want to continue making them, but I also think that it would be a good idea for me to try out some other stuff too. Don't get me wrong though, I am still completely hooked on the Pokemon trading card game. I just want to find out more and more about it. Anyway, another series that has done pretty well on my channel would be my anime errors series. So it got me thinking, what kind of errors and mistakes have taken place in the Pokemon trading card game? Well, let's find out. Today we're going to be taking a look at 10 Pokemon card errors and mistakes. This is going to be a similar style video to the card Easter eggs ones, but I hope you enjoy it just as much. Let's begin! A reliable way of telling fake cards from real ones would be whether or not they are off-centered. So, one side will have a thicker border than the other, or in severe cases, they may even appear to run into other cards. A lot of fake cards are off-centered, but that does not mean that all off-centered cards are fake. This is something that does happen very often in the TCG, and it can be very unfortunate for whoever opened the pack. It really isn't that rare, and unlike other error cards, they really aren't worth that much at all. If anything, they actually decrease the value of the card. There have been several cases of horribly miscut EXs and other rare cards, like this very unfortunately cut Primal Kyogre EX full art that I got sent in the mail. I still think that it's a beautiful card, but the proportions make me giggle a bit. So next time you come across a card that isn't perfectly centered, don't worry, because you may just have a case of bad luck instead of a fake card. This Vulpix card features what is arguably one of the most commonly known errors in the Pokemon trading card game to date. In my books, it's not exactly a huge error, but that doesn't mean that it's any less well known. Can you spot it? If you hadn't collected Pokemon cards before, then you probably wouldn't even notice it. This card reads HP 50, but it should actually be the other way around, just like the other cards at the time. The funny thing is that the general layout for this was changed in Generation 4, so now all cards go by this layout, which makes it less noticeable. In any case, even if this error isn't technically incorrect by today's standards, it is still one of the most well-known Pokemon card blunders to date. Here we have what is arguably one of the most infamous errors in the Pokemon trading card game ever. Pre-release Raichu. Pre-release Raichu came about when a bunch of Raichu cards were on the same sheet as a group of Clefable cards that were intended to be stamped for pre-release. And while Clefable was intended to be a pre-release card, Raichu was not, resulting in this error. Wizards of the Coast denied the existence of this card for years, until an image of this card was released by one of their own staff. I've tried looking online, but I wasn't even able to find an image aside from this one, which I can only assume was probably the original image released by the Wizards of the Coast staff member. A combination of mystery surrounding this card and its extreme rarity has led to it being one of the most infamous Pokemon card errors ever. Pokemon X and Y introduced Mega Evolution, and of course this was implemented into the trading card game too. The Mega cards look stunning and they have their own style that makes them stand out among regular EX cards. One of the main features would be the introduction of text to card artwork. In Japanese, the text will read what the Pokemon's signature attack is in English, and in English the text will read what the Pokemon's signature move is in Japanese. I really do like this feature, as it makes every Mega card unique, while still making them all look great together as a group. The card that we're going to focus on will be Mega Mewtwo EX from Breakthrough, so it's actually pretty recent. Of course, the English card has Mega Mewtwo X's signature move in Japanese. I can't read Japanese, so I can't read it out loud, but I know that's what it says. But I do know that in English, its signature move is called Vanishing Strike, which sounds pretty cool. And to match up, the Japanese version of this card has the text Vanishing Strike featuring the artwork. So you may wonder where I'm going with this. The error lies in the full art print of the card. Wait, no, not that one. The Japanese version. Here we go. Does anything come across as a bit off to you? They missed out the H in Vanishing Strike! So it reads, Vanishing Strike. This is still an awesome card, but I honestly can't take it seriously when it has a glaringly obvious typo right across the middle of the artwork. It's still funny though. Now, this point is similar to the point I made earlier about off-centered cards, but it's not exactly the same. The difference here is in the shape of the card. We all know what Pokemon cards are supposed to look like. The edges of the card in particular are recognizable for their rounded shape, but there have actually been quite a few cases of cards having a square cut. These cards are extremely rare and go for a lot of money online. So much so that people have resorted to buying uncut sheets of old Pokemon cards, deliberately cutting them into a square shape, and then going on to sell them for for a lot of money. So if you ever see anything like this for sale, think twice before buying because it may not be a legitimate error. There are also variations of this error. There have been a few cases of cards having some round edges and some squared edges, like this card here. These cards are pretty much guaranteed to be legitimate error cards, so they're safer to buy. From what I've seen, square cut cards seem to be more common in the older sets, but they still occur to this day. This type of error seems to be much rarer than the cards that are off-centered, so consider yourself lucky if you have one. Here we have a Kakuna card from the very first set, base set. It's a pretty cool card and you've got everything that you need to know about Kakuna. Its attacks are Stiffen and Poison Powder. It has 80 HP, its length is 2 feet, and its length is 22 pounds? What? How on earth can a Kakuna be 22 pounds long? That doesn't make any sense. Well, it turns out that some copies of this card have the word length printed twice, instead of the word weight. I guess that means I don't have to think about how on earth Kakuna can be 22 pounds long. The error was only on the earlier prints of this card, as it was picked up and rectified once base set entered its unlimited print run. Now, this mistake is a very recent one, and I remember hearing about it quite a bit at the time. The two English expansions Breakpoint and Generations were released very close to each other, with Breakpoint released on February 3rd and Generations released on February 22nd, which is only 19 days difference, so I guess I can understand why this may have caused a little confusion. At the time of Breakpoint's release, there were many claims of individuals finding cards from the Generations expansion in their booster packs, which wasn't supposed to be revealed for another 2.5 weeks. From what I've seen, there were entire booster boxes that had all of their uncommon cards be of the Generation set instead of Breakpoint, which isn't too noticeable, but it's still a huge mistake. But there would have been far more eyebrows raised if some of the EX cards had found their way into packs. It's still very unfortunate on Pokemon's behalf, but I'm sure a few people felt very lucky when opening their packs. Okay, so this one is very open to interpretation, but it can be assumed that it is an error. You can tell me what you think of it at the end of the video, but let's take a look. The card we'll be looking at here would be Focus Band, which is way back from Neo Genesis. Does anything seem off to you? Nothing? Except the fact that there's a random white bar there. It's generally accepted that the most likely explanation for this oddity would be an alignment error. This error didn't occur on the original Japanese card, only on the translation. Weird, right? While a lot of Pokemon card errors are corrected during a later print run, it wasn't even picked up at all during this card's print run, as the error exists both on the first edition and unlimited versions. So here's a card that I have been sent multiple times in the mail, Evie from Team Rocket. Really cute card, but there's one feature about it that genuinely confuses me. I've never seen anyone else talk about it, and I don't know if I'm just being silly or if no one has even pointed this out before. But why is Eevee's tail completely yellow? Yellow, beige, cream, whatever color it is, it doesn't make any sense. The last time I checked, Eevee's tail had 2 colors. A lot of Pokemon in Generation 1 have had minor changes made to their design, but for the most part, Eevee has stayed the same throughout. There is one example of official artwork that shows its tail being the same color as the rest of its body, but that's not what we see here in this card. I may be overanalyzing this a little, so tell me what you think of it down in the comments below. All Pokemon cards part of an expansion can be identified by a set symbol, which is a tiny picture somewhere on the card. So, for example, Fossil has, well, a fossil as its set symbol, Team Rocket has the Team Rocket logo, and Furious Fists has a fist. The only set without a set symbol would be the very first, base set. Well, in an early print run of the Jungle expansion, all 16 of the set's holographic cards were printed without the set symbol, giving the illusion that they were part of base set. That must be a real pain if you're trying to sort cards into sets. While not extremely rare, these cards are novelty and can easily fetch $20 a piece online. Well, thank you so much for watching the video! If you enjoyed it, then you will probably also enjoy my videos about Easter eggs in the Pokemon trading card game too, so you should check them out. Or if you're more into errors and mistakes, then I do have a few videos on mistakes that take place in the Pokemon anime. But for now, that's all for now from me, and I'll see you next time!